Welcome. We can call it early morning Lombardi. I know it's 7 a.m. on the West Coast, but I wanted to get the season off on the right foot. 49ers training camp begins this week. The dead period is almost over. So to celebrate, we're just going to keep on pumping out more content starting this Monday morning. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I have a piece ready for you alongside Matt Barrows on The Athletic to get you ready for training camp. There it is, 49ers training camp. 10 storylines to track from Trey Lance to Charvarius Ward. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into the chat section. Those of you who are regular viewers of the channel already know the deal. Click on the link, subscribe to The Athletic, do what you need to do. Those of you who are watching this later, it's in the comment section pinned up there. But this is my welcome to the 2022 season. The 49ers have high expectations. They obviously have more question marks than I ever remember them having. And the question marks are all intriguing ones. And we deal with a lot of these question marks in the piece up on your screen. But Trey Lance obviously is the big one. They still have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. They're looking to trade him. That's obviously been stalled over the course of this offseason due to a shoulder surgery. So we'll have to see what happens here over the next couple of weeks because a soft deadline at the very least is looming. And obviously the contractual situations of Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa have yet to be resolved, although both are under their rookie deals for this 2022 season. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We still have to talk about the 49ers offensive line because there are some question marks there. There's some holes to fill after some offseason departures. We have to talk about the 49ers defensive line and the entire unit in general. DeMeco Ryans' defense, I think this year, if you look at it on paper, can be a top 3 unit, but there are still some, I don't want to say questions, but there are some areas, some pivot points that must be addressed to move this defense from the realm of good to the realm of excellent. And of course, we criticized the 49ers special teams plenty last year. We'll have new players, a new coordinator, and maybe they're going to be that final piece of the puzzle to help support Trey Lance and an offense, obviously breaking in a new quarterback for the first part of the season alongside that defense. In fact, I think if you look at the 49ers overarching formula, if we want to zoom out and look at this in simple terms in 2022, it's going to be really powerful defense plus improved special teams to support an offense that has an extremely high ceiling but may have some early growing pains. But we have to remember here as we speak on the eve of training camp, let's put it that way. It's not the eve right now, it's 7 a.m., but the day before training camp, I know a lot of you will be watching this video through Monday. As we speak right now, we have to acknowledge that this 2022 season is going to be a marathon and not a sprint. That's how the NFL works. A lot of people are going to freak out about individual developments over the next few days, and then, of course, over the next few weeks. But if we look at this in the big picture, the 49ers want to be building toward their fastest pace, their peak performance as this season goes along into its stretch run. That's what they did last year. It almost netted them an NFC championship. I think that they kicked into gear a little bit too late last season, so they're out of the running for a bye, all that good stuff. So this year they obviously want to kick into gear earlier, but it's unrealistic to expect any NFL team to be at full stride for all, 20-plus weeks of the season if you include the postseason on top of the 17-game regular season. So the 49ers, when you look at Trey Lance, you look at some of the holes they have to fill up front with the offensive line, that's probably going to be a building effort on that side of the ball. So it's going to be up to the defense to be the locomotive that pulls the train and the special teams not to screw it up. Because let's be honest, the special teams screwed it up way too often last year. Anyway, the first overall outlook at what this week is going to mean and what this season is going to mean to really broach the entire campaign is up on your screen. 49ers training camp, 10 storylines to track from Trey Lance to Charvarius Ward. I'm going to go ahead and put this into the comment section. You guys can go check it out there. Here you go. You can subscribe to The Athletic, $1 a month. So those of you who are excited about football season right now, you want to follow every single development of training camp in a way that's more in-depth than anywhere else, please do subscribe to The Athletic through that link that I put up into the comment section. It's up on the screen really quickly right there. I don't think you can click on the screen, though. So go to the chat section. It's also in that comment section. Subscribe to The Athletic. You'll be able to follow the 49ers much more closely than you ever have before if you aren't yet on board. And, of course, subscribe to this channel. I know that I intertwine the two a lot, but make sure you're subscribed to both. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And off we go with our 49ers 2022 coverage. So I'm happy to answer some questions on this morning. Get your coffee out, do whatever you need to do. And then I have to fly to San Francisco because I spent the offseason here in Nashville, but I have to fly to San Francisco, be ready for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch tomorrow, Tuesday, July 26th. And then the players, they're going to be practicing for the first time on July 27th. Talking about players heading to training camp, there's Trent Williams, custom-made jet. You could see right there, custom branded jet, I guess I should say. Maybe he did custom make it, but it says SBG, Silverback Gorilla, obviously Trent Williams' nickname. So he's headed to training camp in style. Then Nick, one of my Twitter followers down here, he says that it looks like Jason Poe, 49ers undrafted rookie offensive lineman, is headed there with Trent Williams. So Poe takes a picture of the same jet. You see the decal. So maybe Trent's flying all the 49ers offensive linemen with him from Longview, Texas to the Bay Area, probably to SJC. I got to find a private jet tracker for that. But Trent Williams showing up in style to 49ers training camp. And if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will, because Trent Williams might be the best player in football. It's between him and Aaron Donald, number 99 for the Rams. So 49ers O-line, Rams D-line, that sets the ground, that sets the ground rules for the NFC West. It's going to be another tough division here in 2022. All right, let's talk. Questions are welcome. First of all, early morning Lombardi. Yes, please. Yes, this is early morning Lombardi. For Matt Gillum, do you think there's enough depth at linebacker that someone gets traded? No, I don't think so. I think that you want the depth at linebacker. I think you like having Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shire, and Oren Burks, because Dre Greenlaw played only 2 games last year? 3, not a lot, right? 2 starts last year for Dre Greenlaw. So you have the best linebacking core in the league. At least you have a chance at having that with what the 49ers have right now. And I think you're trying to win some football games, and I think you're trying to be as strong as possible. What are you going to get if you trade Al-Shire or Greenlaw? A 5th-round pick, if that? Is it really worth a lower-round draft pick when you can recoup a draft pick through a compensatory formula for one of these guys further down the road? I don't think it's worth a trade right now for the 49ers. I think that you hold on to what you have, make sure you keep that linebacker unit as one of the best, if not the best, in the National Football League, because that's going to spearhead a defense that has to be the locomotive that pulls the 49ers train. Does Debo sign before Wednesday? I don't know. Let's kick back and see what happens. The deadline pressure, the first soft deadline will be here. Let's see if Debo, if he doesn't sign, if he's willing to practice, or if it's going to be one of those hold-ins. Like TJ Watts last year, there are a lot of options. Obviously, he gets fined if he doesn't show up, and it's a lot harder to forgive those fines with this new CBA. So I think Deebo Samuel will almost certainly be at 49ers training camp, kind of like he was at the mandatory veteran minicamp. Whether or not he signs might determine whether or not he's on the practice field. So the hold-in is when you show up but don't practice, don't partake in some of that stuff that can get you hurt. TJ Watt did that with the Steelers last year. Then they signed him over Labor Day weekend. So maybe a similar thing with Deebo Samuel. I honestly don't know. I do know that it's headed on the right track, so we'll see what the timing's like. And, much more quietly, we look at the situation with Nick Bosa, right? And it's a similar situation as Deebo Samuel as far as the contractual dynamics are concerned, but Bosa's been much more quiet about this, so we have to also gauge what he does and if it's any different from what Deebo Samuel does. But 2 49ers first-round picks, or not first-round picks, 2 2019 picks. Nick was the first-rounder, Deebo was the second-rounder. They're both up for new contracts right now, and we'll see what happens here between now and the start of training camp and then the start of the 2022 season. Was it smart for the 49ers to gamble on Jason Verrett's health instead of bringing in another top cornerback? Well, the great news is that they didn't gamble on Jason Verrett's health. He's signed to a league minimum deal that's not guaranteed. It's a complete flyer. So he's just a man on the 90-man roster. So if they decide to carry Jason Verrett, it's all upside for the 49ers. There's no downside to signing somebody to a league minimum deal that doesn't have any guaranteed money. So I think the 49ers are in a good spot. They have made this bet on Jason Verrett before, by the way, coming off an injury-filled 2019 season in which he played like 3 snaps against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were a disaster. They signed him to the league minimum, nothing guaranteed, total flyer deal, and Jason Verrett ended up playing Pro Bowl caliber football for him in 2020. So it worked out then. They do it again now. Again, it's not a gamble. So is it worth it to not gamble? Yeah, it's worth it to not gamble. It's all win for Jason Verrett here. Even if he doesn't play, then they haven't lost anything with Jason Verrett. So yes, I think it was absolutely worth it to carry him on the roster because, hey, if he could show up and play the way he did in 2020, that was a slept-on season. Pass rush wasn't great in 2020. Nick Bosa, D Ford got hurt. Jason Verrett had a hell of a year. And Charvarius Ward is a good football player. So if Verrett can get back to where he was 2020, you roll the dice on the help, but it's a dice with limited downside. Boy, you got Verrett on one side, Charvarius Ward on the other. It's good news for the 49ers secondary. If Kinlaw is seriously a positive this year, do the Niners have the best D-line in football? Maybe. I mean, Bosa's got to stay healthy. He didn't stay healthy in 2020, but Bosa's got to stay healthy. You've got to get something out of that opposite defensive end spot, whether it be Drake Jackson, Sansa Mebicom, Charles Omenihu, whatever. I mean, I think you hope a rotation works there for the 49ers. I think they want to come in numbers, come in droves. But, I mean, Kinlaw is a massive domino. There's no question about it. So if Kinlaw delivers in the middle, Bosa's who he is, and the other defensive linemen on the other end are who, we saw late in the season last year, post-week 14, then I think the Niners do have the best defensive line in football. But Kinlaw is a big-time domino. He's coming off ACL reconstruction, and he looks like he's in great shape. I can't wait to see where that story goes, but I can't say anything more than that right now. Do you think that Jackson will start a defensive end opposite Nick Bosa? Any idea on how much of an impact Drake Jackson will make? Well, if he lives up to, what some talent evaluators thought was first-round talent before he dropped down playing out of position at USC, then Drake Jackson can have a big impact. I mean, just the long story short, the guy's 270 pounds and he can do a standing backflip. The physical tools are unreal with Drake Jackson, right? They say that he's a sponge. They say that he's going to soak up that knowledge from Nick Bosa and Chris Kasarik. If all that is true and he stays healthy, you combine all those things together, he's got immense potential. I mean, at the end of the 2020 season, he was a top 10 projected draft pick from Dane Brugler, who does the mock draft for The Athletic. He dropped down to a second-round pick later on. But this guy's got first-round talent as far as just physical capabilities go. And if cerebrally he's there, motivationally he's there, well, then, yeah. I mean, Drake Jackson could start opposite Nick Bosa. But let's remember he's going to be a rookie this year, so it might not be to toss him in and he's going to start right away situation. The good news there is they have Charles Omenihu. They have Sansa Mebicom. They have Jordan Willis. They have Eric Armstead to do some stuff on the edge. 49ers are deep up front, right? And they're deep at the edge spot this year. I haven't even mentioned Kamoko Toure yet, who they picked up from the Colts. So Jackson has some runway. He doesn't have to be that guy from day one. But obviously, eventually, especially when I talk about the season being a marathon, 49ers want him to be that guy as this season progresses. All right, quick break right now. Why don't you subscribe to The Athletic? Subscribe to this YouTube channel right now as more questions keep on rolling in. This coverage is going to be coming in all season long, coming in hot all season long. Welcome to our 2022 49ers coverage. I know a lot of you are probably still waking up on the West Coast. It's 7:13 a.m., 9:13 where I am in Nashville, but about to get on a plane. Do you see the defense still holding up the offense? Which week does it get 50-50? Well, that's a good question from Carlos Gavidia. Yeah, I mean, I see the defense being the locomotive that pulls the train. If they're a top 2 defense, it may never be 50-50, right? If the 49ers finish the season top 10 offense, but a top 2 defense, it'll be a defense first team, and that's okay. The key is complementary football. You want the best balance possible. So good defense, good offense, or good offense, excellent defense. But then you can't have the special teams screwing it up. And they screwed it up way too many times last year. It was number 26 special teams. That's not good enough. So you want to have all 3 phases of the game complementing each other. And I think the 49ers can, hit their stride offensively, realistically, by the second half of the season. Maybe they'll surprise me and be gangbusters from week 1. But, I mean, it's just on paper, you look at how this team is built and you see realism with the quarterback, right? He's a young quarterback, tremendous ceiling, but it's going to take a little bit of time probably to knock off some of that NFL rust, let's put it that way. For that, you say second half of the season for the offense. But you come into this knowing that you have a really talented roster that can support Trey Lance if you're the 49ers, and that support might start on the defensive side of the football. Will there be more explosive plays last year? Well, here's the thing. There were a lot of explosive plays in 2021. Guess who led the league in explosive pass rate, pass plays of 20 yards or more in 2021. The San Francisco 49ers. This was an explosive passing offense. Shanahan has always schemed one up, and when he's had Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback healthy, the 49ers have ranked number one in explosive pass rate. In 2019, they ranked number one ahead of even Kansas City. And in 2021, they also ranked ahead of all other teams. So Garoppolo executed Shanahan's vision well. The yards after the catch was excellent from Deebo Samuel, George Kittle and company. And this system works as far as generating explosive pass plays. Now, when Garoppolo had been replaced by Mullins and Beathard, that rate went down. They're still good. They're still in the top 10 as far as explosive pass rate, but they weren't number one. So the question is, where will they be with Trey Lance? Because a lot of explosive pass success relies on the ability to execute the short game, because that's how this offense is built. You toss it to Deebo Samuel, you have to set him up with a good throw for yards after the catch. You have to get it around the defensive lineman, and the blockers have to be in place so that Deebo can do his thing, or George can do his thing, or Brandon Ayuk can do his thing. So Trey Lance, we noticed that, he was stronger with longer developing plays last year, which followed the film, followed the inexperience, but he's going to have to be precise and on point with the quick game in 2022. And that's going to hopefully for the 49ers set up the explosive passing plays. But this team, they're going to try to go over the top probably a little bit more with Trey Lance, right? If he can buy some time, he could heave it a few times. But the bread and butter is still going to be that short game. You still have to be able to be choreographed and work within Kyle Shanahan's choreographing to be able to flex the muscles fully of this offense. And a lot of that's going to come down to how well the 49ers block up front as well. So it's a team sport. Everybody's got to do their part, because if you have one component, one missing link, then you're in trouble. Then it all breaks down in football, and then all the blame always ends up on the quarterback. But those of us who watch the game, I think this channel watches the game astutely. We know that it's not just the quarterback, and it's not just going to be the receiver, and it's not just the O-line. It is the combination of all those parts playing complementary football, doing a good job to set up that explosive pass game. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate your opinions on the 49ers as well. How instrumental do you see the safety opposite Ward being? Is Huff still a favorite, or do you see someone taking the position besides him? Hufanga is the early favorite because he's playing first-team action there over the offseason. But I wouldn't sleep on Charvarius Ward. Let's see where he's at. He's coming off the Achilles, so he didn't play any first-team ball in OTAs. But Moore has started games for the 49ers, and he's extremely physically gifted. 4.3 40, he can hit. You love Charvarius Ward as a turf eater, and he's faster than Talanoa Hufanga. So Hufanga, we talk about his instincts all the time, and that's great. The 49ers may run some 3 safety sets as well, so I don't think he's coming off the field regardless of what happens. But I think that Charvarius Ward is going to make a push for that job here in training camp, and we just have to see how well he does come off of that injury. Hit the like button if you're excited for camp. Thank you, Mike. That is good. Yeah, hit that like button if you're excited for camp. Maybe I could hit the like button myself. Do you think we'll see Poe practice at other positions this year? People say running back a lot, but tight end may be uses blocking, receiving skills better. Yes, I think he's going to be working out as an offensive lineman. But what happens is that as a coaching staff, you notice skill sets. And then when August 30th hits, that's when the 53-man roster cut down is. You start to be like, oh, boy, we can't fit everybody that we want on this team. And that's when Brian Fleury, the 49ers tight end coach, or, Anthony Lynn, the 49ers running backs coach, that's when those guys are going to be in a meeting room and they'll say, hey, I like this guy Poe. He's over in the offensive line room, but he's a bowling ball. He can be a fullback. Brian Fleury might say, hey, he could do something for me in the tight ends room. That's when those guys might start lobbying for a player like Poe to make the 53-man or the practice squad or whatever you have, because they see potential positional versatility that can help the 49ers get around some roster size limits. So Poe, I think, in camp is going to be working with the offensive line, but we know what he can do. The 49ers coaches know what he can do, and they'll learn more about what he can do based on his mobility and his body type. He's the shortest offensive lineman in the league, so he's built like a bowling ball. As they figure that out, as they see more and more of his on-field capabilities, when it comes time to cut down the roster, that's when you might see some of the creativity and some of the maneuvering, because I really do think that Kyle Shanahan can use this guy in creative ways. I think so. Kamiko Torre, is he being slept on? I think so. 5.5 sacks for the Colts, a veteran edge rusher, lighter edge rushing type, 250, 255, around there. I think that Chris Kasarik is going to make good use of this guy. It's not like he's just a cast-off that hasn't done anything before. Again, 5.5 sacks with the Colts last year, nothing to be slept on. and I think he'll be a good rotational guy for the 49ers. Any under-the-radar guys who can make this roster with a strong camp? All right, this is a great question, and I think that we should just go ahead and pop open the 49ers 90-man roster to help answer it. And I'm going to make this bigger across the whole screen. Stretch this out wide. By the way, this is something that you should bookmark right now. I'm copying the link and putting it into the chat section. I maintain 365 days a year, a 49ers depth chart and full roster. And it's color-coded, so you can see a lot of the good stuff on there. I could even take myself off the screen so you could have this go width to width. Very glorious. You can see everything. Yellow means the 49ers signed or re-signed the player this offseason. Blue means that the player's an incoming rookie. Red means they're still probably hurt, but I think McGlinchey and Kinlaw are going to be cleared as soon as tomorrow when we first talk to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. That's going to be really exciting for the 49ers, so I could take them off of the red. But the question from Mike is, are there any under-the-radar guys that can make the roster? So I'm going to make that question disappear here so we can just view this roster in its full form. But anything on the left side of the big black line is a 53-man roster projections. Those players are in. Any players on the right, I consider them to be out. That's just a projection, though. So let's not pretend that, this is the final word. A lot's still going to happen between now and August 30th. We have a month and about 5 days for the 49ers to determine this over training camp. So obviously Sudfeld in that quarterback room. Elijah Mitchell is your lead running back. I don't see any surprises there. Now, receiver, I've got 5 guys making the team right now, including Danny Gray, the rookie. An under-the-radar surprise could come here with a receiver number 6. A lot of people like Tay Martin, undrafted rookie. He can move. Marcus Johnson or Malik Turner. Those are 2 veterans who might make the team, so you might consider that a surprise. People aren't really sure what to expect from tight end behind George Kittle. I think Tyler Kroft is the favorite to make the roster. He's a veteran who's done it before. But one of these guys can make a move, Hudson Fumagalli or Jordan Matthews. As far as the offensive line, this is where a surprise can happen. I think that Burford makes the team. I think that Zakel will make the team, or at least make that practice squad, later round pick in the 6th round out of Fordham. But one of these guys can step up. Poe, Donovan West, these guys can carve out and earn a spot. That's the glory of training camp. Now, defensive line, I only have 10 49ers making the team. I'm going to have to amend that to 11, maybe even 12. But then again, you have to lose guys somewhere else. But Willis and Gibbons, at least one of these 2 guys, is going to make the 53, health permitting. As far as linebackers go, I don't know if there's going to be a surprise. I think the Niners might stash Jeremiah Gemmel, Seguno Luby, Marcelino McCrary-Ball. Those are guys that you stash for the future when you no longer have a Dre Greenlaw or an Azeez Al-Shire. So the practice squad is going to be big for the 49ers, as it always is with a deep roster. Then you look at the secondary. Maybe there's some room here. Maybe there's some room for a surprise here, because as you can tell, I've got 10 guys between the cornerback and safety positions, but I don't have Castro Fields on there, later round pick. Quantrez Knight, a lot of people like him for a potential nickelback spot. Taylor Hawkins, safety. Leon O'Neal, a lot of people like him at safety. So maybe one of those defensive backs squeezes in. It's just really, really hard for me to definitively answer a question right now about, any surprise is going to make it, because the camp hasn't even started yet. Pads won't come on for another week or so. Once they start popping, once this pads start popping, that's when guys start standing out. That's when you're like, ooh, this under-the-radar guy, look out for him. He's going to force his way onto the football team, and that's when we could start having those discussions. That's why you should subscribe to the channel right now, because we're going to be having daily updates. That's why you should sub to The Athletic. I mean, you're going to get a feel of who's good, who's not, how that 49ers 53-man roster is going to look. But the glorious thing is right now we're walking into a blank slate. The campus is empty, right? The canvas, not the campus. The canvas is empty. We can start painting. The 49ers can start painting. And, from here on out, we can track this from the very first step. And the very first step is tomorrow when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch speak. All right, let's go with some more questions. No, I'm not allowed to live stream practice. I mean, I'll be out there, and there'll be a lot of good video content that I'll give you guys, but we can't live stream from practice. So subscribe for the video content. Sorry, no live streams though. Who do you think will start at tight end along with Kittle? Well, I don't know if anybody will start unless they go in 2 tight end packages, but I think you just basically have an order of importance with tight ends, and you have different tight ends doing different jobs, right? Y tight end going to be more of an inline blocker. X tight end is going to move a little bit more. So you got Kittle. I think Charlie Werner made strides last year. You have Dwelly, who does everything, but Werner did surpass him on the depth chart. So I think they want a bigger body to complement and block, whereas Kittle's more of a receiving tight end who can block, but you're going to want a guy who's block first, like Levine Toilolo was on the 2019 team. All the guys they brought in this offseason, between Croft, Troy Fumagalli, Tanner Hudson they brought in last year, but Croft and Fumagalli are both big bodies, both 6'5", 6'6". I have Croft as my favorite, but they're both veterans and both guys who have performed on an NFL roster before. With Mitchell being established in the running back room, can you see Jordan Mason making an active roster? Yes, because guys are going to get hurt in that running back room. I know the 49ers are trying to insulate themselves against that, but it's just the truth. It's death, taxes, and 49ers running back injuries. And, there might even be injuries during training camp or the preseason. So as soon as one spot opens up, Jordan Mason, 220 plus pounds out of Georgia Tech, can make the 53-man roster. So it's just something that it's a game of numbers, right? As it stands right now, when I put this roster back up there for you guys, you look at the running back position and you have Mitchell, Wilson, Ty Davis-Price, Sermon, and Juszczyk. Shanahan's carried 5 before recently, so I think he carries 5 again. And you have JaMychal Hasty outside looking in, Jordan Mason outside looking in. What you have working in Mason's favor is the 49ers seem to be emphasizing size this year at running back and durability way more than they have in the past. Elijah Mitchell, 211 pounds. Jeff Wilson, 215. Trey Sermon, 211 to 215. Ty Davis-Price, 220 pounds. Jordan Mason, 222 pounds. 221 maybe. JaMychal Hasty, outside looking in. He's like 198 or 200 pounds. So, maybe they do want more of the scat back type to complement, round out the room and Hasty, and they bring him aboard. But I think that the focus on size gives Jordan Mason a real chance to make this football team. Who has more rushing TDs, Lance or Debo? Debo. Yeah, I think Debo's still going to run the football. I think Debo likes being a wide back. I think a lot of these rumors about him, I don't think he wants to run and get tackled by defensive tackles all the time, like Aaron Donald or bigger types. But they run a lot of sweep action with Deebo Samuel. They run a lot of perimeter action. And the thing is, he's the most physical receiver in football as it stands. He averages more yards after contact than anybody has ever averaged at the receiver position. So Deebo Samuel is a physical type of player no matter where he lines up. So the difference between him running a sweep and running into defensive backs and him being a receiver and running into defensive backs is non-existent. The guy's going to be, you're not going to turn him into Dante Pettis. He's going to be a physical receiver, and you don't want to turn him into Dante Pettis. He's got the dog in him, right? So Deebo Samuel's going to be a physical receiver no matter what. And if it's rushing carries going to the perimeter, it's the same thing he's already doing as a wideout. And I think that he has a nose for the end zone. He's got a second gear. I don't think it's ever smart to bet on the quarterback to lead your team in rushing touchdowns, or at least lead an all-pro, beat an all-pro in Deebo Samuel. So I'd bet on Deebo Samuel in that equation. How long do you think it will take the O to operate cohesively as a unit? There's a lot of new faces. I think you got to give it half a season. Could happen sooner, but the reason you've got a great defense, at least talent-wise, and a good special teams unit is because you got to give that offense some runway. Does the emphasis on size at running back correlate with the Lynn hiring? Yes, it does. Anthony Lynn played running back for the 49ers in 95 and 96. Then he's the head coach of the Chargers later on, but he comes from the whole 49ers school of tutelage, and that makes him a good schematic mind. And he's known in league circles as somebody who considers the inside zone to be his bread and butter. He likes to establish a little bit of oomph, a little bit of power in that run game. It's not all outside zone with Anthony Lynn. With Detroit, it was a multiple guy. He ran inside and outside zone. But the power run game is important to Anthony Lynn. It's obviously important to the 49ers as they now have 220-plus pounders on their running back roster. And that's definitely going to be something that they emphasize this year. I call it zagging while the rest of the league is zigging, right? The rest of the league is getting smaller defensively, a lot of nickel packages, smaller defensive backs, smaller safeties, smaller linebackers. Well, then you punish them with guys like Deebo Samuel, not only him, but then your running backs, right? Elijah Mitchell, punisher. Jeff Wilson snatches guys' souls when he's running, and when he's healthy, he's going to be a year more removed from the injury this year. And then you have Trey Sermon, obviously ran a lot of inside zone at Ohio State, but Ty Davis Price and Jordan Mason were two 220-pound bruisers, and that absolutely coincides with a desire for more power run game stuff and Anthony Lynn hiring. Let's see. When are the first group of cuts expected? Let me open my calendar and let you know, because there are 3 cut downs again. August 23rd is the cut to – no, sorry, let me rewind. August 16th is the cut to 85. So that is in 3 weeks and a day. August 23rd, the week after that, the 49ers cut from 85 to 80. August 30th, cut to 53. So those are the ground rules. Maybe I should tweet about that in just a little bit. Do you think the 49ers will have 2 players with 1,000 yards receiving this season? That's tough. I think they'll have at least one. The goal would be to have Ayuk and Deebo Samuel both there, and obviously George Kittle there. But 2, yeah, let's say yes. Fine. Let's say yes, because you got 3 guys who are really capable of it in Ayuk, Samuel, and George Kittle. 2 out of 3 people stay healthy. It definitely is possible. All right. I've been on for 30 minutes. I've got a lot to do. I've got to fly across country today. So let's just go back to the start of the video. Subscribe to The Athletic. First of all, we got a nice piece up on The Athletic for you. I put that in the comment section, 10 things to watch. So make sure you check that out. And then please do subscribe to this channel, because this is our official welcome party today. I did this in the morning. Welcome to our 2022 49ers coverage. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. More in depth here than anywhere else. So if you're not subscribed, you're missing out to both The Athletic and to the channel. Do so right now. Everybody have a great Monday. If anything happens, I'll try to go live from my phone, but I am traveling a little bit later today, so maybe something will happen tomorrow once I'm a little bit more based. But I'll be coming to you live from the facility tomorrow. There's going to be a whole lot of content on all the platforms. So sub to The Athletic, sub to the channel. Appreciate you all. Why don't we buckle up? This is going to be a really fun 2022 journey. So welcome to the 49ers season 2022. Glad that you're along for the ride. I'll try to make it as enjoyable as possible for you, as interactive as possible for you. Appreciate you all. Buckle up. Let's have fun. It's going to be good. It feels like we just finished the last one. So that's how it's supposed to work, though. Fast off season means a lot more fun once the fall hits. Everybody take care. Have a great Monday. Hope you use this to get your week started off on the right foot. Make this week your masterpiece.